Welcome to another episode of Small School Big Tech. I'm Andrew Schwab, your co-host, and I am joined today by your other co-host, Mike McBoo. Hey, Mike.
Hey, how you guys doing?
So, we haven't talked in a while. Actually, it's been a couple weeks, and you and I are both gearing up for summer. I think our last day of school was on Thursday. When did you guys get out?
Our last day of school was actually the 29th of May, 30th of May. Yeah, we had
Of
graduation on the
May?
30th
Wow.
of May.
Wow.
Yeah, well, we
Crazy. You
start on
guys have been out for a while.
well, we start up on the 5th or the 7th. Students are on the 7th of August, and teachers are back on the 4th of August.
Wow. Well, I'm freaking out because it's already middle of June, which to me feels like summer's already over. And traditionally, as you know, summer is the time that we try to get a whole bunch of IT projects going and done. So, what do you have lined up in your queue for summer?
Yeah, graduation on the 30th
Wow,
of May.
wow,
Yeah, we
crazy.
start on
You guys have been out for a while. Are you getting that feedback on audio?
what? Not anymore.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
We're having some technical difficulties as usual with Hangouts. Always a challenge. Anyway, I just heard our conversation played back to me. So, uh, projects in queue. What do you have going on this summer?
Well, we got our Wi-Fi. We're redoing our Wi-Fi, and we're actually upgrading some of our switches in our IDFs to PoE switches. So we
What?
got yeah.
You don't have PoE switches? What year is this?
Yeah.
This is 2014.
I don't know what happened. I mean,
Do you know what year I put those switches in? It was
yeah.
2008.
Well, there's two core switches, and those have PoE. That's the only PoE switches we
Oh,
have.
that's true. Those were put in more
Yeah.
recently. I think like 5 or 6 years ago.
So we got 10 PoE switches, and I got some more money, and we got the bond approved, which is nice.
Oh,
So
you
there's some
did.
money. Yeah,
Congratulations. That's
thank you.
awesome.
That's
Yeah,
gonna be
we
nice
did.
for us.
We did as well, which is
Oh,
very exciting.
congratulations to you. Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
So with that, we're gonna be able to we'll be ready for our voice over IP if it gets approved by Tier 1 at any rate. Um, Upgrading the Wi-Fi. We have 32 AC units being deployed um, at both schools, and we don't have any outdoor AC units, but that's okay. We got four the 7600s from their outdoor Ruckus's outdoors systems.
So 32, so you're going to have at least one per classroom.
Pretty much, we have one per classroom, and it's going to be pretty rock solid across the whole. I mean, it's been rock solid already. This is
Yeah,
going
you're
to
running with
be
like what, 20 or something? I mean, you've got
20. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I love the fluorescent lighting in my office. Okay. Um, so why AC? Is it time for AC? And I've been debating this whether or not we should go AC or we should stick with until the second generation AC comes out.
Well, we went with AC for a couple of reasons. The price break on these things was just pretty good, and it it really in the future. So we're kind of future proofing ourselves. And the way Ruckus explained it, these were um, continually to be upgradable. The software will handle what's coming down the pipe, and the next gen AC
Oh, so
wasn't
they're
going
gonna
to.
right. So you're gonna be able to do a firmware upgrade to get the
Yes,
AC next gen features. Yeah,
yes,
that's nice. That is important.
yeah. Ruckus made a couple of really big improvements this year. Prior to that, I was really loving them, but some of the things was annoying. Like if you lose the zone director, all your APs lost connection.
Right.
Now that doesn't happen anymore. Zone director goes down, the APs stay up with their information.
Oh, so they're caching everything locally now. So the zone director is basically what, just pushing configs out to it, using
Yep.
more for management than anything?
Yeah, it's more for management and analytics now.
Hmm.
There's some
And
things that
and that's how like Aerohive works, except the controller is in a box. It's actually in the cloud. So that's interesting that Ruckus has gone that route. And maybe I should be looking
Well,
at that as
Ruckus
well.
does offer to enterprise levels. Ruckus is offering cloud-based support for, I think, this next fall, offering to enterprise users.
Hmm.
So
Well, everybody's going that way, right?
pretty
Although
much.
I have my own issues with the cloud at the moment, which maybe I will blog about later. But my dreams of a zero server room are slowly evaporating. So so that's good. You're gonna go PoE on your network switches, which was always a goal. Actually, the plans for that were put in place like what I think before I left.
In 2011.
Yeah, and it's now 2014. So congratulations on getting
Yeah.
that through the SLD and E-rate.
That was a painful process. But like I said, it just worked so far. I mean, now I think I feel we're ready now to go ahead and move and start implementing other projects such as putting dual IPv4 and IPv6 on the network, and then start offering that through DHCP and DNS services. So there's just a lot of different things I can now move forward with. I felt I couldn't move forward with the old infrastructure because I was mainly concerned about keeping it up.
Right. Well, it has been running since like 2004. Actually, you know what? Those switches, yeah, your original IDF switches, that's 2004 stuff. That's 10-year vintage right there. That's pretty good for HP Pro
And
curves.
it is, and I am, I've always been a fan of HP. Uh, we actually deployed those first before we were made to do Cisco at my other district.
Hmm.
But coming in here and working with HP systems, I just find them very reliable and low management. So
Yeah.
it's all
I do
around
not
good.
live in that environment anymore. We are 100% Cisco shop. We just put in brand new 3750 switch stacks right before I got here, so that's good. I mean, they're great switches, and we have to re-IP our architect, our network over summer. That's one of our big projects because when it was set up with a class B at every site, and then at some point when they redid things, they went to a class B district wide. And while you think a class B is a lot of addresses, we're finding that with all the wireless devices and all the other devices that are showing up, that we are now running out of space within the class Cs that we have allocated on all the different VLANs at the site. So we want to open that up. We want to go back to the class B per site so that we have a lot of flexibility as far as being able to do simple subnets and not having to do anything too complicated. And that's, my philosophy is always simpler is better. So um, unfortunately, it means we're going to have to go touch everything with a static IP, which is all of our printers and some other devices. So it's going to be fun.
I feel you there because we know we have to do that. That's one of the things I was hoping I could do this summer, but if it doesn't happen, it won't happen. But I don't have as big a district as you do. I'm a micro district.
No, yeah, I've got 9 schools, but I have a network engineer who's going to do all the work, so that makes it better.
Well, there you
At
go.
least from my perspective, I don't have to go program switches anymore. But no, I think that's the foundation, and you got to have a solid infrastructure. I mean, thankfully, our cabling is pretty solid. It was put in probably 6, 7 years ago, and it's all Cat 5e, although we don't have nearly enough in every classroom. And we're actually going to be installing an access point in every classroom. Right now, we have one in about every 2 to 3. And because of expediency, we're going to backpull an existing cable in the classroom because I don't know, what our pathway situation is, and I don't know. Um, it's just a lot easier to pull an existing cable back about 15 feet than it is to try to get new cabling into every classroom. We're going to tackle that project next summer after we've had a chance to really look at, what our infrastructure looks like as far as the cable plant and all that kind of stuff. So, but we need an access point in every classroom. That's a no-brainer. And I think we're going to go AC, kind of for some of the reasons you said, like to future-proof. Plus, we're already seeing AC clients come on the market. So all of our teacher MacBooks next year are going to be AC capable. The new Asus Chromebooks are coming out with AC already. So I think it makes sense to make the transition. And like you said, it's probably smart to look for a vendor that says they'll support version 2 features in a firmware update versus requiring new hardware. So
Yeah. One of the other things we're planning on doing is getting rid of 2.4 on the whole network this summer. So we informed everyone.
well, all right, Mr. iPad man, you have that luxury, right?
Yeah, I do, but it helps out a lot because it just makes the network a little bit faster. We know some the way the Ruckus people are talking about it says it takes the slowest device on that ACE AP at 2.4, and we'll go ahead and throttle it down for the whole system to actually support that smallest device or the slowest device. So that just brings everyone down to a crawl on that AP. Yep, I lost audio for you.
I'm having some weird audio problems. Can you hear me now? Am I back?
I can hear you. I can't hear you now. Love the technical.
Either we're having crazy delay or crazy lag or something's going on.
There's some weird lag going on.
You can't hear me now?
I can hear you, but you're lagging. About a minute.
There's some weird stuff happening. I had a clicking sound going on. Let's try this. Try killing your video. I'll kill my video. Let's see if that improves the audio.
All right. You hear me? Oh yeah, it definitely improves audio. A lot better. So
yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Well, this was originally an audio-only show. Maybe we should go that
way. Go back to it.
So, yeah, exactly. We still have some crazy lag. So one of the things that we've done, actually, we're currently using Lightspeed for our filter for the internet, and we ended up having a hardware problem on the box, and so we were in the process of demoing Securely, which is a hosted web filter. So it's kind of like OpenDNS in that it lives in the cloud and you basically point your DNS servers to it, but it's tightly integrated with Google Apps. And so because our Lightspeed filter decided to die on us unexpectedly, we actually cut the district over to Securely under the demo. They let us do it, which was really nice. And we've been running that for a bit. And before that, we were having some throughput issues with our bandwidth because the Lightspeed box just couldn't handle it. And I like the idea of Securely because it basically, with Lightspeed, if you wanted to go, increase your bandwidth at the district or at the to the internet to like 2 gigs, you had to buy another box, or you had to buy a really expensive box to begin with. With Securely, because it's all web hosted and based on DNS, it doesn't care about your bandwidth. We can scale out basically infinitely, which is pretty cool.
And how does it? I mean, are they proxying everything to you?
It's not proxy. It's DNS. So you know how OpenDNS
does? Yeah. Okay.
But what's really cool is it's all based on your Google Apps login. So you can actually force students to log in using their Google Apps account to authenticate before they hit the web. And if they're on a Chromebook, it's seamless because they've already logged into Chrome, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty cool. You get really good analytics by student.
So what's the cost per student or annual?
Yeah, it's comparable to other web filter solutions. We got a pretty good 3-year discount. So it's a little limited in feature sets, but for me, like I said, simple is better. They're continuing to evolve. They're from a startup incubator in San Francisco, and they're only focused on education. And as we still have some testing yet to do. We got to test the iPads out and see what those are going to look like. But so far, I'm liking it. I really like the concept.
Does it only is it only connected to your network, or will it follow the Chromebooks if the students take them home?
So there's a service where you can actually enable off-campus filtering. It costs a little bit extra, more per user, but you can set that per suborg, so you can define what students it affects and which ones it doesn't. But yeah, it'll filter the Chromebooks or an iPad or whatever device you send home with kids. And actually, the students will get filtered if they log into Chrome from home, even if they're not on a school device.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so if they log into their Google Apps account from home, they'll get filtered, which is kind of cool.
Well,
So,
we're still running Untangled here, and we're going to be moving to 10 this summer. I was waiting on the servers that's part of this 2011 E-rate package to actually arrive. The good news is that 10 will now do the whole HTTPS proxy.
mm-hmm.
So it'll go ahead and take care of that for us. OpenDNS is still our backup, which is really nice in case we have if we fail.
Right.
But with the Untangled for our school size, it's doing really remarkably really well. And there's a few instances that we couldn't do because of the HTTPS on the version 9 and below.
Right.
But coming up to implementing 10, the bad news is that it won't. It's a newer architecture
Mm-hmm.
running Untangled, so I have to re-enter all the information
Oh,
by hand. There's no migration path.
so Mike, I know we're live, but I got to run out. I got a guy
Yeah.
doing the installation. So why don't you tell people more about Untangle? I'll be right back.
All right. Well, while Andrew goes take care of his installer issues, Untangled is a subscription product that you can download and put it onto your hardware. It's a really, really good product, and for the standard educational version, it's very, very reliable. A lot cheaper than anything, about $1,500 a year. So you get web filtering, you get policies, you get application filtering. It's inline. I know a lot of people are going away from inline, but for a one-man shop, Untangled is actually. I don't think I could do all the filtering and all the compliance and the policy issues that I could do without having these programs like Untangled or Ruckus in the shop, being a one-man shop. So having Untangled, and one of the other aspects of Untangled that really makes it viable for us is that it has its own OpenVPN server, and you can actually implement your VPN solutions into the system, and it scales pretty decently for us. I'm sure if you got the larger, it can scale up higher. I don't know what the top limit is, but Untangled is used in a lot of different shops. So you can download the Untangled to test out for free. You have the free version, and there's limited web filtering. You can set up as a proxy. You can set up as a analytics server for your traffic, but it does allow for a lot of flexibility, and again, for a small shop or a one-man shop in education. The pricing is pretty good. So combine that. It does also Active Directory. So there's Active Directory lookup, so you can use your Active Directory logons to authenticate back to Untangled, and that will tell them whether or not which policy to use. So right now I have a staff policy and a student policy, and those vary. I can also have a third policy placed in, which would basically cut off the network access or external network access to students that have violated certain policies, which is really nice. And again, it makes it fairly simple and easy to manage. So, waiting for Andrew to return, talk a little bit about the Ruckus setup that we have. Again, like I said, we've talked about this before. I had started off with 22 for the last 2 years, 22 APs the last 2 years, running off on 2 campuses and supporting up to 600 devices. If I allowed everyone to actually connect on the external network to connect in, each student to bring their own device to connect in, I'd probably end up having about 1,200 devices to support. And so we don't allow students to have their portable devices to come in. Now with the new 32 APs, that were implementing the AC units and for external units, we can now allow for more devices to be connected and allow students to actually come in to our network and use their personal devices if they need to. So again, Ruckus just pretty much worked, and we set it up, and again, for a one-man shop or a small IT shop, having something simple is the way to go. And that brings me to a question I've been pondering: is simple versus complex a stereotype that IT people in education, at least, probably for other IT groups, something they stay away from because it's too simple to use? I mean, you have to know the underlying infrastructure. You have to know how things work within the network environment. And as Andrew says, keeping it simple is a lot easier, but we tend to see a lot of very complicated infrastructure and infrastructure needs out there in the world. And a lot of shops seem to go away or move away from the simple, or from a simple solution and they deploy the complicated, and they want to see the certifications in the complicated. So it can be kind of interesting to see how people are having that issue with. So, Andrew,
all right, Mike. Great job, Stalin.
Yeah, I was actually talking about how simple Untangled, and I talked about how simple Ruckus was to manage, and then that led me into talking about how it seems a lot of IT shops keep away from simple because there might be a stereotype that simple is not secure and simple is not enterprise ready.
Yeah, and you know it's funny because I actually debated putting Untangle in here. I've got quite a few more users than you do, so I'd need a pretty massive box, but it was really easy to use, and that was always a nice thing about it.
Well, it does more than just the filtering. I mean, the VPN, the Active Directory connector, the policies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I know. I mean, we're looking at a new firewall because of bandwidth throughput, and it'll do that too. So.
Mm-hmm. And I'm only limited to the size of the box I put into it, and since it's an appliance, software appliance, and if I put it on if I virtualize that appliance, I can just migrate to a different box and change the specs on the networking connectors.
Yep.
And virtualize it. So it just seems like it's a no-brainer. I know a lot of people are moving away from the inline stuff. Not quite sure why, other than that the overhead between the throughput may be causing, for larger school districts, I would believe this is probably what it is that their throughput at a gigabit or binding the ports might be a little more troublesome than.
Well, yeah, because it's actually, I think, the solution providers, once you get over a gig, the costs shoot up exponentially for the appliances. Mm-hmm. They really don't have cost-effective, like 2 or 3 gig solutions. And we're not looking to go 10 gig on our internet, but we probably will be looking to go 2 gig here in the next year or two. So for us, that's a pretty big jump. I mean, even on the firewall side.
Well, I mean, we're looking to do 10 gig, not 10 gig, to go to gig, not to. We're at 100 right now. We're looking to.
Hot for you guys.
We're going to 1 gig. Woo!
Well, I mean, you're 2 schools with 550 kids or whatever it is.
Pretty much.
I'm 9 schools with 5,500 kids. And a gig for us, we're not saturating it yet, but we're also going to be adding a lot of devices next year. So I can see us just needing to add more bandwidth capacity, and that's only going to increase as internet use increases. So all these things are important things to consider, especially, the other thing I think about too is we're putting in all of these access points, and AC, I think, it's what, 450 meg throughput, and so the new AC units are going to require up to 1.2 gig throughput. You start throwing all these gigabit access points up, and pretty soon your 1 gigabit network backbone is going to get saturated on your LAN.
Yeah.
We're looking at 10 gig backbone for the LANs moving forward too.
Well, luckily, if your backbone is fiber, it's just a modular switch at the in the IDF and the MDF.
Yeah, well, when you're in Cisco LAN, that modular switch cost is significant. So,
That's another reason why I love HP.
you know what we've been doing, and I know Cisco doesn't like this, but we've been using, I guess they call it the gray market. I'm not 100% sure why it's gray.
Oh, the aftermarket or the not the refurbished market?
Yeah, but we're using a company that has pretty high standards, and they have really great support and warranty service. It's called Network Hardware Reseller. They're actually out of Santa Barbara. Um, and you'd never know you're not getting new Cisco stuff. So I don't know how Cisco's dealing with it or how they're competing, but pricing has been really good. So I've been happy with that part of it.
Oh yeah, it's definitely something that you got to take a look at when you're sitting there looking at the infrastructure and wondering why the cost is so high, and then you're looking at the brand name and you're like, what can do the same thing for cheaper?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love HP ProCurve. I mean, if I had got here before they started doing the big network upgrade, I probably would have tried to convince folks that
All
was
right.
the way to go.
Now, I want you to answer this question here because I was able to do this. So
No.
I have this 2004 HP switch, right? And it has the maybe a little later, maybe it's 2006. It has a modular components for the fiber optics. You know, the little ports you pull out.
It's called a GBIC, Mike.
The GBIC ports, yeah. Well, you know. So I put in this new PoE Plus switch, brand new, out of the box. Plug it in. Take that old GBIT port, plug in out of it, put it in the new port, and it worked. So
Yeah.
talk about compatibility.
That's pretty good. I know they're actually we had to buy new GBICs when we put the new core switches in because there was an issue with I think it was like GBIC A and B wasn't supported and you had to have GBIC C or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
But still, I mean, this probably had the GBIC C modular since it's going back to the core switch.
Right.
But again, I don't know of too many devices that can go 8 years apart and still have interoperating components between something that was just produced this year.
Yeah, well, luckily the GBIC standard's pretty universal, but
yeah,
you're right. And the other thing to consider is, the network switch or backbone really should be a 10-year investment if you're lucky.
Oh yeah.
And you have been, and it is time to upgrade those 10-year-old switches. But yeah,
that's.
If you're looking to do voice, that's a whole nother thing. Are you looking at hosted, or are you going to go on premise?
Hosted.
Yeah, we're having some fun times with hosted.
Are you with Jive?
Go just on hosted VoIP.
Are you with Jive?
Yes, we are.
No, that's the only one that bid.
For your size, I think you will be fine.
Yeah, that's what I keep hearing. But I'm one of the other good things about getting this bond is I will be able to replace all the switches in all of our IDFs and MDFs with our PoE switches.
Yeah, you know what? I'm finding that the hosted VoIP issues aren't really related to the network. Well, you got to have a solid network infrastructure, and the PoE is nice, but it's not 100% required because you can always do injectors. But the issue you got to realize when you go to a hosted VoIP solution is, and we dealt with this with Gmail, right? I mean, when you move mail services offsite, you don't control it anymore. I think the difference is Gmail's gone down maybe a couple times, maybe 3 or 4 times in the 7 years that I've used it. It's actually gone down, and then it usually comes back pretty quick. How do I say this? You need to make sure that your hosted VoIP provider has good, solid infrastructure on their side, and that they're prepared and available. And it's not only that, it's also the internet. And you got to make sure that your internet actually works. Because there is, despite what everybody would like to think, there's a different standard for phone service than there is for anything else. When people pick up the phone, they expect to be able to make a call And the only time that they expect not to be able to make a call is if the power's out. And even then, they still expect to be able to make a call. So it's a different animal. And I'm not sure the internet is ready for VoIP at a school site where you have safety issues involved. But, that's just me at this point.
Well, that's one of the things we're actually looking to put in is a backup solution using T1s to our sites and being able to dial 911 out.
You have to if you're going through CalNet 3. It's a requirement. Yeah. So to me, that means there's basically no cost savings to the whole thing because you still got to maintain PRIs.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, I don't want to get into it. We have backup analog 911 lines at every site, so you can dial 911 if the internet goes down. Power is always an issue because everything's powered off the switches, and unless you put a 400-pound UPS in the IDF, you're only going to have 20 to 30 minutes of backup battery.
Yeah.
Unlike traditional PBX phone systems where you could have 4 to 6 hours because you could put a battery in the MDF and it would run the whole system. So, these are all the things that I looked at when I did voice over at LeGrand because I actually did voice in 2004 or 5, I think, and I decided to do PBX, traditional hosted on-prem because of all those issues. And now that I've gone down the hosted VoIP route, I realize that there's those issues and more because I've deployed VoIP at a few businesses, and it was ShoreTel on-premise, really nice, easy to use system. I just came from Berryessa where they had hosted Cisco, or not hosted Cisco, but Cisco on-premise VoIP, and that's really complicated, which is why I was never a fan. Too many moving parts. But I don't know. There's just something about having your call processing in the cloud that is a little different than having your email up there. So
yeah, well, we'll have to see how it goes. I mean, we definitely we put into a budget for a hosted VoIP.
Well, and there's the whole thing with E-rate now. The new FCC guy is talking about wireless as a priority, and I just saw a notice out yesterday that said maybe they won't do phone or web hosting or any of those other services anymore as eligible services. Yeah,
well, the consultants, as of at least this last SETPA, the consultants that talked to SETPA have already started saying don't do web hosted stuff on E-rate.
Yeah. But the one I just saw actually talked about VoIP too.
Yeah. Oh, that's was that a FCC notice or was that just a?
It came out from one of the consultant organizations, and it basically the FCC commissioner is basically saying he wants to direct money to Wi-Fi and bandwidth instead of all the other services.
Yeah, that makes sense. So does that mean that Tier 2 becomes a bigger priority?
I don't know if it would be Tier 2 or if they do wireless as a Priority 1 hosted service and they cut the other stuff. I think cutting phone would be a huge problem for a lot of school districts because
we depend on it a lot.
Yes, exactly.
So but that would also push a lot of school districts to get away from the actual phone connectors other than their PRIs and their Comcast or whoever else they're going through.
See, the E-rate's recommending a gigabit per 1,000 students by 2017.
That's only in a couple of years.
I know. So.
Well, that's a lot of things for. I mean, small schools, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but the way I feel there is small schools have a lot of flexibility. We can adapt to change a lot quicker than a larger school district. There's just so much more that you have to do. You have more people that you have to consult with. You have more people that have their own opinions, and part of the nice things about being in a small school district like this, where it's only me, myself, and the superintendent, there isn't anything that where I just have to make a good justification for it to the superintendent.
Yes, I think, when you get into a larger school district, and having extricated myself from one of those, it's kind of like trying to turn the Titanic. Feels like a monumental task. So I agree. Even with 9 schools and 5,500 students, I still consider myself a small district, because it has that same feel to it. So what else you got going on over summer?
Well, it's pretty much that. We're messing with Apple DEP program and their MDM.
Okay, because I've got an Apple. I'm hosting an Apple DEP seminar on the 26th of June.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping to learn more about that, actually.
It's not quite the way they've talked about it. I mean, there's things they've missed and hit and miss on it, and I've talked to about 3 different engineers and escalated a couple different things. Some of it has to do with when you update it from server 3.x to server 3.1.x or whatever on the module, what certificate you're using, if you're code signing. There's like a lot of variables. You cannot intermix your DEP supervised devices. It has to be over-the-air supervised versus using configurator to configure it and then add them to your MDM as over-the-air.
No configurator with DEP at all?
No, I mean not if you're supervising using DEP versus supervising using configurator. You have to do one or the other.
One or the other. What are you using for MDM? Are you still using Meraki?
I'm still using Meraki for the MDM, but I put up my own Apple MDM.
Yeah, the issue I heard with Apple MDM servers was they weren't built for capacity, or they won't handle a ton of devices.
Yeah, it's a little slow with the 500 plus devices we have here, because what I like about it is you just put the purchase order from Apple in, and the serial numbers populate automatically. But there's certain things you have to do. You have to make sure that all the ports are viable to the outside. So there's one port on your MDM server that must be opened. That wasn't 80 and 443. So then I have to make the request to the county. The county has opened the port, and I made the request 4 days ago. It hasn't been opened. But that's just one of those little things there. The other thing is that
must be because you made the request. When I made them, they were like 24-hour turnaround.
It must be because I made the request. I don't know. It depends on who it got assigned to.
So what is the advantage to running? Because I really like the Meraki MDM. What's the advantage to running on the Apple side?
Free.
Well, so is Meraki.
But not if you want to do a lot of the management components.
No, not if you want support. I thought all the features.
Well, not all the features. You still have some features that don't work, like the ability to push out. What was it? To be able to lock the device, or there's a couple things in Meraki that aren't free that you have to pay for. So it's like there's an upgrade. I can't remember off the top of my head.
First I heard about that one.
Yeah, there's some features. If you click on it, it says this requires a feature. I'll have to look at it.
Okay.
But so
does DEP require an Apple ID? Is that the one where you set up every kid with their own Apple ID too?
Yeah, that's the other problem too. Every single kid has to have, every single student who uses a device has to have their own Apple ID. That's not manageable. So the whole process actually going through there is very intensive. So they come to you with a blank iPad or their own. If they BYOD, then they come with their own stuff, and they don't supervise your device. So they come to you. They have to have a logon on the network. So, and then they have to, if you want to push apps to them and books to them, they have to have their own Apple ID. So in order for them to get all those stuff, they have to log on, sign in with Apple ID, and the App Store has to be on, and then they have to start downloading all the stuff. Well, we have like 99 apps that we
Push it out.
no that we have that we use on Configurator for different reasons.
So so that's got to be fun on the first day of school when everybody's downloading their apps.
Yeah, so that's something we decided. So I was messing with it and we're testing it over, and it's just like we're touching the device, and there's just too much interaction with the device. Even if the student were to use it, there was too much interaction with the device. So we're actually going back to Apple Configurator, using Meraki as our MDM, and using the old iCloud method and we set up our own iCloud accounts to find my iPhone. Because if you it doesn't matter if your devices, because one of the things I was told is that the device would be logged with Apple, and if it came up with a device and it saw that MDM, it would not go any further. We're discovering that that's not true. The device has to be enrolled into the MDM first, connected, bring the profile down, then it won't ask for skip. So now you bring a device up, it says skip or don't skip. So there has to be a connection between the MDM and the device before it will give you that option, so that it doesn't bricks the iPad or iPhone when it gets stolen.
That sounds horrible.
Yeah, it's not quite there yet. And like I said, I've been working for 4 days with Apple engineers on this issue, and that's when they discovered the code signing certificate problem.
Yeah, I don't think I have any issues like that with Chromebooks.
Yeah. But anyways, so we're going back to the Apple Configurator, but we're making some changes because with the iOS 7 and some of the new features, lets apps be updated over, without having without having to plug them back into the configurator, which is what we were looking for anyways.
How do you feel about iOS 8 coming out after you've redone all your iPads and shipped them out again?
As long as they don't push it out like they did 7, that'll be fine. It's that whole thing, it's updated, and they just bricked my network.
Yeah.
Well, it bricked their device, not my network, because I had throttled the devices down to 1 meg each.
Well, you're going to have to block the updates again, or block the update website or something.
Yeah, I don't know what.
Hopefully they'll give you the heads up.
Yeah.
So that's one of your big summer projects, right? Is redoing all the iPads, basically refreshing 550 iPads?
Yeah, we'll have half of them done by June 19th because of our honors and AP classes for the summer reading program, and the rest will be done by July for our roundup.
Now, how old are your oldest iPads, and are you refreshing, or what's your plan on that?
Well, the oldest iPads are the ones you actually purchased for the teachers and the admins. Originally, not counting the iPad 1s. So those iPad 1s are the oldest, I guess. But we took them out. They're not even usable anymore.
Are you giving incoming freshmen new iPads next year?
Yes, we are. iPad 4s.
Okay.
Because they don't have the iPad 2 anymore.
Right. And I'm kind of happy about that, actually.
Yeah. So the oldest iPads we have were the ones you gave to the staff and the admin. So they're about 3.5 years old, maybe close to 4.
Yeah.
And so this incoming senior class are on their 4th year on their iPads. The outgoing senior class are in 3 years, and they have been given the opportunity, if they graduated and walked, to be able to purchase their iPad from us.
How have they held up over that time?
Hardware-wise, they held up really good. We've, like I said, have 3 years, and all the devices we had, maybe 10 devices in total had hardware issues that can be tracked directly to the hardware itself.
Right, not a screen crack.
Not a screen. So, and in the beginning, I had at least 5 of those items that were covered by warranty, and 5 weren't. So, like Wi-Fi issues, the LCD just going black battery issues, that sort of stuff. 5 out of the original 260 watt, 200.
That's not
No,
bad.
300. Maybe you bought almost close to 300.
Yeah, 300. I think it was
Okay.
close to 300.
Yeah. So out of the original 300, you got, and that's not even including the impact ones, which you got about the same time, and the one and the special ed one and the staff one. So I'm guessing close to 400 devices. 10, right? Everything else can be tracked to someone improperly misusing or cracking or damaging the device.
Right. That's actually not bad. That's a pretty good. So, are you still happy with my decision not to buy AppleCare?
Actually, I haven't bought AppleCare in the last 2 batches.
Okay, good.
I did buy it the first year I was here because they had a special on the 2-year one. But after dealing with them and realizing that it wasn't worth it. I mean, literally, you'd send it in and they come back and say, "Oh, this was dropped." It's like, how do you tell? It's like I couldn't tell it was dropped, and they say, "Yeah, it was dropped."
They have that secret accelerometer in there that tells them if it was dropped or not.
Yeah. So anyway, so it was very difficult to get them to process. Even with a cracked screen, it was difficult to get it processed. And
Really?
so it was $49 each time they cracked a screen, and they sent it in, and then the caveat would be, well, it only covered it if it was a cracked screen. If it was some damaged internal parts, then it wasn't covered. It'd be $279 or something like that.
Oh, really? Wow. I didn't know that. People should know that.
So I know, but they never tell you that when you buy it. They only tell you that after you buy it and when you try to make a claim.
Yeah, so it's not worth it. Okay, good. That's how I feel.
I mean, we got the insurance and have the kids pay for the insurance, and that works out really good. I mean, and make sure we have a fairly decent case. If I had a better case, I'd probably have less of a problem. But as it is right now, we're sitting at $8,000. No, $7,000 this year just for uninsured iPad cracks, and 10 of those are staff cracked iPads.
Well, you're going to make them pay for that, right?
Well, that's my policy I'm writing up this year. And
oh, man, so much fun. Well, yeah, case is hugely important. And in fact, when I got here, we were pushing out iPads without cases to schools. So schools were going to find their own cases, and I don't like that. So we're standardizing on a case. I still haven't found one. What I really like, I like the plastic frame, the rubber around it, and then a screen protector. But I would love one that actually has a flap screen protector and not just a plastic one.
I did demo one from Apple. It has a flat screen protector, goes over it. It has a clear case on the back, and it's pretty rubberized and pretty rugged. The problem is that with the flat screen protector device, unless it's a solid plastic component, and this is like the little Apple screen thing they had.
Yeah, the flip cover or whatever.
Yeah, the flip cover things.
Smart cover.
This has a hard cover inside, except it's covered by a pseudo leather type plastic cover, and so it will come off after use. So after 1 year of use,
they're coming off.
They're coming off. So I would see something that would have a hard cover, and then the second component is that if it's hinged in any way, you're going to have that hinge fall off eventually.
Right.
And the kids will get annoyed with it. They'll put it in the back, right? And then they won't flip it back over to the plastic screen to cover it. You almost
need something that is more laptop-like.
Well, there's this glass that's available for the iPads. It's like a second glass. And I saw it in I have to pull up the link. I'll send you the link to it. But they're using a hammer to hit this glass. It's basically like a screen protector that you put onto the piece, but it's like a second plexiglass covering that will fit down on it, and it'll take a drop or whatever.
And still be conductive or capacitive?
Yeah, and still touch and everything. And so if it's cracked, you just peel the thing off and replace the glass. The problem is it's like $80 a pop.
Oh, yeah, well.
But
at that price, might as well just buy the kids a MacBook. Come on.
Yeah, no kidding. So the main problem that we're sticking with the iPads we bought last year that have the all encompass the rubber backing, and they have the plastic sheet on the front, and so we like that. I
I
like
think
those.
that's the best. That's the best option I've seen. The problem, does yours have a kickstand?
Yes, it has a kickstand. Last year, all the kickstands broke, and we talked to the manufacturer, and he's sending me 150 kickstands for free to replace those kickstands.
Right.
And they said this year their model is coming out with metal instead of the plastic connector, so it says it shouldn't break as much.
Yeah, I've got some folks who are adamant about having a kickstand, but my experience to date has been they come off too easily. So, well, that'd be interesting to see. All right, I'll have to keep an eye on that case.
Yeah, I'll email. I think I emailed you the guy's link before. That's the best case in around $32
Hmm.
per, and it's really reduced our costs. And
Yeah, man, those case costs just go up. Yeah, because I remember I think the original cases I bought were like $8 or $12 or something,
mhm.
which obviously wasn't worth it. But nobody was making iPad cases at the time, so you know.
It wasn't something that we it was understood. Oh wow, if I drop it with that plastic shield on the back, it's still gonna crack like,
Right.
and it did.
Well, the
To,
plastic shields were a response to try to do something, right? I mean, that was, and they were
yeah,
only like $3 a piece or something. So,
yeah, it didn't, and it didn't really help. So
right. That's too bad.
yeah,
Oh well, live and learn. So if
yeah.
you buy an iPad, buy a $40 case because it'll save you in the long run.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that should be a no-brainer.
If you buy a Chromebook, don't worry about it.
Yeah, well, you're gonna replace a Chromebook in 2 years anyways, right?
That's not true. The Acers are really, really bulletproof. The Samsungs, I'm worried we're not going to get another year out of them. The ones here were purchased in November, and we have a stack from each school that need to go back to get trackpad replacements, and they're flimsy. So I'm really concerned.
Yeah.
In fact, we are buying plastic cases for them to try to stiffen them up, and hopefully that at least in the middle schools, and hopefully that will help them survive the next year. But I don't think they're going to last into year three. At least not. Probably, we're going to lose a big percentage of them, I think.
Yeah. Well, take a look at the cost of what the iPad 4 is coming out now. It's now $380 per, right?
Mhm. Yeah,
And then
but
you add the
I can buy an Acer Chromebook for $240.
yeah, but I can put a case on this thing, and I got a good solid, I mean, 4 years out of it. And I
Oh,
probably could pull.
I think I'll get 4 years out of an Acer. Although actually, I'm looking at UberMix right now. The Acer is going to be coming out with their B115, which is basically a C720 Chromebook chassis,
Mm-hmm.
but it'll run an actual operating system.
Mm-hmm.
And because the issue I'm running into right now is Minecraft will not work on a Chromebook. And what does everybody want to do right now? Is
They want to do Minecraft.
they want to do Minecraft. So unfortunately, it's all about following the app, I guess. But so I think we're gonna probably go down the UberMix route, at least at the middle school, so that they can have Minecraft capabilities. And I think we're just gonna start in the media center labs first
Mm-hmm.
and go.
Well, let me throw something out at you because we just, as you know, every single teacher MacBook Pro had Microsoft Office on it,
Mm-hmm.
and teachers aren't going to go away from Microsoft Office. It was being used in the Mac Lab
Mm-hmm.
and all the MacBook Pros that were purchased. So we only had X amount of Microsoft Office licenses. So I went ahead and took a look at it and see what it would do and see what it would cost for us to get the new servers and how much the cost of the servers were, and even with the E-rate paying for the servers and all the different licensing we wanted to do, and we're also bringing SQL back into us for Aries because
Mm-hmm.
we're just not happy with the hosted section right now.
Yeah.
For just to cover the cost of the Microsoft Office, the server licensing, and the SQL Server, if I were to do a replacement every 4 to 5 years on those devices itself, for licensing, it would cost me close to $16,000 on traditional licensing. So I took a look at CAMSA, and I get everything.
We're not going to talk CAMSA now, are we?
No, I'm just telling you, we did. We went ahead and went the CAMSA route. It was cheaper.
It's horrible. Okay, so let me tell you my CAMSA story.
Mm-hmm.
I can't believe you actually subscribe to CAMSA, but that's okay. How much did it cost you a year?
$7,000.
Okay. My CAMSA story is this. We currently have an enterprise license, an EES. I did the cost comparison between our EES and CAMSA. Because of our numbers, the size that we are, and the requirement in CAMSA that you have to buy the Microsoft IT Academy, it's actually more expensive for us to switch from our EES over to CAMSA.
Well, that's what I did. It was more expensive on the Monterey or the CalSave or whatever.
We're not on that. We actually, I don't know how we got the pricing that we did on EES, but we are on some crazy low pricing.
If we had EES, it probably would have worked, but I can only go with the CalSave pricing. So looking at that pricing, the pricing model, and then also the other factor that factored in is that we're getting free OS X updates and free iWork stuff. So that reduced our overall output. So I just switched the money over from there to the Microsoft stuff.
Well, that's true. I forgot I had budgeted for Apple software updates.
And so with some of the things that we want to do with the career and technical education side of the house, it just makes a lot of sense, especially if we want to go ahead and start talking about offering computer science courses.
How did we get into this discussion? Are you suggesting that I should run Microsoft Windows?
No. I was just making a point that when there's a deal out there, all right, sometimes you got to take all the good with the bad.
Well,
but the deal is out there, and it made a good point. It's just that we have people still tied into a type of application, and you said follow the application. So we do have,
I think for you it makes sense because one, you're a high school district, so IT Academy makes a lot of sense because you could probably use it in some of your CTE classes. Yeah. Two, you're right. You're not going to get rid of Microsoft Office for teachers and staff, and that's the same situation we're in here. That's why we have an agreement because it covers all that stuff. And we can't all be like Rio School District.
No, we can't.
And I think for some people, CAMSA will probably make sense. Like I said, for us, because of the ridiculously low cost of our EES and the numbers, the way they worked out, it didn't make sense to do that. But we're on a year-to-year, so I can always revisit next year, which I tend to do. So,
Well, it works out good. Like you said about UberMix on the systems, we're actually going to replace one of our teachers' lab with. He currently has UberMix devices. We're going to put UberMix devices in that lab. And for the labs, we're going to buy PCs and run UberMix on them.
You going to go refurbs, or what are you going to do for PC hardware?
Probably, I don't know. I'm taking a look at it. I would really, really love to get those HPs all-in-one HPs.
Right.
All right. Touchscreens if I can get them, but if not, I just get all-in-one. And only because it's just been a solid. That machine's a solid machine, the all-in-one HP, and it's a Pixie bootable and a whole bunch of other things. And it just brings a whole, it's all in one system. So
have you been running them somewhere?
Yeah, we got 10 of them. They replace all the staff ones. That really? Like office staff one.
An HP all-in-one, huh?
Yeah.
Huh.
So
what's the cost on those? What are they running?
That was at $800. 3-year warranty.
I might have to look.
No, it was $900. $900, but it had a 3-year warranty.
Yeah, we're looking at redoing our staff computers at some point. I like the all-in-one design because it puts everything in there nice and clean.
It makes it clean. It's right there. It's large.
It's not as upgradable, but if you have a scheduled refresh and you're going to replace it every 5 years,
pretty much.
The other issue I'm running into is a lot of my staff like dual monitors. So.
Yeah, and these do have the option to having the external monitor, and so if they want a second monitor, I just put a smaller monitor out there.
Smaller? Why? How big's the all-in-one?
The all-in-one's like a 24.
Oh. That's pretty good size. Um, okay. Well, we've talked for a bit. You had your solo monologue there for a moment,
Yeah.
and so I don't know. It sounds like we're both gonna have busy summers.
Yep. It's just gonna get busier and busier with all this new stuff. We should talk about Connect Ed next time.
Connect Ed. What is that?
That's an initiative that with all the
Oh yeah, the stuff I don't qualify for anymore.
yeah.
Okay.
Well,
We can
you
talk about
will.
that
You
next
will
time.
eventually qualify for it. It just immediately you won't qualify for it.
Eventually, you mean
Every school is going to be qualified for that
every?
afterwards.
Okay.
They're doing Title Ones first and
Right.
concentrating on high schools, and then they bring everyone back up. And that's
Yeah.
the
Well, when you say everyone, just remember my district doesn't get Microsoft voucher funds because we don't qualify. So
well. Apparently, right now it's you have to qualify in things Title One.
yeah. Well, that's good for you. You guys should get some funds. And again, congratulations on the bond. That's huge.
And you too. I know you guys need it.
Yeah, 1-to-1 in the next 4 years, 3.5 years. Depends on who you ask, but
Yeah.
it's going to be pretty major. So we're doing a big Wi-Fi push this summer and got to re-architect our IP scheme and do some other stuff. We just well, how about we close with my crash migration to Google last week?
Okay.
So I got here what 5-6 months ago. You know, not we're not we they were not on Google at the time. They were using Google Apps, but just for Google Docs, and so no email. Still on Exchange, and so I went around and said, okay, we're going to have a voluntary migration at the end of school. So anybody who wants to migrate over, we'll let you migrate your email over, and then we'll come back at the beginning of school and we'll do training and we'll get everybody migrated over after that because honestly, I just had too much going on to try to do training at every site and get everybody comfortable in Gmail. Although I know there are some districts out there that have migrated without doing any training, Milpitas. And however, a week and a half ago, well, the Exchange server has always been a bit wonky to me. It's been really slow, and I've noticed some issues. But a week and a half ago, we had major issues, and it went down several times and was not coming up. And it looked like something had been corrupted in the operating system or there was an Active Directory issue going on. It just looked bad. So before we had really figured out exactly what was going on, we just made the decision, well, we'll just migrate everybody to Google now because rather than invest time and energy in possibly having to rebuild our Exchange environment. And the other trouble was that the Exchange environment had originally been built by a consultant, so nobody really fully understands how it's configured or what's going on.
Ouch.
Yeah, so that was another factor. So, long story short, we come back from the weekend on Monday and we're still having Exchange server issues. And so I blasted an email out to everybody saying, we'll be migrating to Gmail a little earlier than planned, and we're going to do it the last week of school, and by Friday, everybody will be checking email through the Google interface. And so that was my week last week. And what we did was we migrated all the Office users who are on Windows using the Outlook connector, so they still are using Outlook. So that mitigated the training issues with them. And then the last day of school was Thursday, and so we sent out flyers and notices to teachers and basically said, here's how to check your email on Friday using the Google web interface. We redirected the webmail login to a page that explains that we've changed, webmail is going to look different. Here's how you log in, and gave them a link to Gmail. So it's been crazy, and right now I'm in the process of migrating everybody's mail over from the Exchange server, which we've stabilized. Turns out we had a hardware physical layer connectivity issue that was causing connectivity problems between Exchange and a couple of domain controllers.
How many Exchange boxes do you have up?
We have two. We've got the core and then a hub transport, and then we've got the Lightspeed filter. That's the spam box, which is actually it was doing all the MX traffic before we shunted everything over to Google. But actually, it turns out I think this is for the best because running a dual delivery over the summer would have been problematic just because of the Lightspeed box is overly aggressive on filtering, so or on spam filtering. So we would have seen a lot of valid email getting caught in the spam filter. So, long story short, we migrated to Gmail in 4 days, and I was really impressed. I think over 85% of my teachers had logged into Google Apps last week, so I know that they were good to go. And my staff numbers are a little low, so I got to work on them.
Yeah, were they OWA before this?
No, teachers have been running Outlook on Mac.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So actually, I think a pretty good percentage of them will be happy to be on Gmail.
Yeah. I can imagine.
But, there's differences. I'm doing training for the management staff next week because they're the power users and they're going to have the biggest issues. And then I'm finding, there's still some little annoyances in Google Apps and Gmail. Like on the iOS side, local group contacts still don't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't sync your iOS reminders with your Google tasks.
But you're using the iOS calendar, right? You're not using.
I'm using the native iOS apps. Yeah.
Yeah. We've told everyone to move to Gmail and
Use the Gmail app.
The Gmail apps, and then use a free third-party calendar.
Oh, really? What are you using for calendar?
No, there's Calendly or Calendar. I don't know.
Okay.
If they want to use, if they want to stick with the calendar app, then they can use a calendar app on their thing. But basically, it says we just don't have it on there.
Well, look up that app and let me know because I'm doing training on Tuesday. But actually, now I'm thinking I should just switch to a Google phone because it would be so much easier.
Well, I love my Android phone for that reason.
Yeah.
I got a quick thing. We've been hosting our web server, so I migrated from your WordPress server to a Joomla server a while ago. I think that was one of the first things I did when I came to your site, to LeGrand.
It's your school now, buddy.
Yeah. And I got this call like the last week of school. I can't get onto Aries. Gmail's not working. Nothing is going on. You need to come and fix it now. And I'm getting like 4 or 5 teachers. I'm like, what? I go to Aries, it's up. Go to Gmail, it's up. So I walk into the classroom, and they say, look, it's not working. He says, I'm looking at the URL, and it's to our web server, which is down, But they said that's the only way they can get to Gmail and to Aries is through our web server. I was like, okay. And then we had to go around and say, okay, here's a link. Here's a.
Yep. No, that's for some people. It's still the bookmark,
Yeah. So
In fact, I know I'm gonna have issues with people who have bookmarked OWA and are still trying to use it. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, man. Well, been good talking to you, and I know we're going to be busy summer, but I think we should try to catch up in a couple weeks and see how things are going.
Definitely. I'll be able to tell you where we're at and how things are going. And you should have some information on when your bond is being finalized and what you can get with it.
I already have my technology budget. We're just working out timelines and what we're going to do and how long it's going to take. And I can start spending now because we passed a resolution. So I've got some projects that are in the pipe, which the wireless is part of that. Infrastructure stuff. I'm calling this my summer of infrastructure. We're fixing our infrastructure this summer, and getting ready to. I think we're going to try to deploy I keep saying 40, but it's probably going to turn out to be more like 60 carts of devices next year. Yeah, so it's going to be crazy. Yep. All right, man. Well, all right. Thanks again for joining. Mike can be found. What's your Twitter handle, Mike? It's that weird one that nobody knows.
At AllYourBaser.
And I am at Another Schwab, and this has been another episode of Small School Big Tech. You can find previous episodes at smallschoolbigtech.com, as well as, I'd say follow us on Twitter, but nobody does, so it's SM School Big Tech on Twitter, and we'll be back with another episode at some point in the future. We appreciate everybody listening and taking the time. And with that, I will say, roll the music.